All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular October meeting of the Clay Township Board of Trustees. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Matt, if you would lead us.
I
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mary Eckert will not be able to join us tonight, but we obviously do have a quorum. First item is an approval of minutes from the October 7th, 2014 regular board meeting.
So moved.
And seconded. Is there any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion will pass 2-0. I'd now like to open the floor to a public hearing on the proposed lease between the Carmel Clay Municipal Public Building Corporation and Clay Township. I announce that the public hearing is now open at 6:07 p.m. Would anybody like to speak, address the board, ask questions about the proposed lease between the building corporation and the township? Hearing none, I will now declare the public hearing closed at 6:07 and 30 seconds. And we'll move on to public comments. Are there any comments from the public tonight? No one would like to address us. That's fine. We'll move to action items. Our first action item is the 2014 fire contract. Doug?
Well, as you know, every year we have a contract with the city of Carmel, a fire contract, and 2014 being no different than any other year. I will let you know that the total contract is $1.2 million.
That's our portion.
And that's right. That's that's our portion of the fire budget. And one thing I just want to break out for you is on item number 13, it breaks out our cost for the fire department, which is $656,134.60. And then our part for communications is $30,382.50. And if you then turn to the second page, top page 4, on top of that, we are giving the city of Carmel the $513,482.90 of the county option income tax. Majority of that is for Southwest Clay, but now that it's in the city of Carmel, we're giving them their fair share of it, and those three should total $1.2 million. Okay, nothing else has changed. Basically, that's what changed from year to year is the amount of the contract. With we pay the 3% of the fire budget plus this COIT money. Okay, now I'm going to recommend that this be in the last year that the city gets any COIT. Okay, 2015 Carmel will be getting the 100% of the property tax for Southwest Clay. There is a question right now about the COIT, and we will probably have to go through that again. But I'm recommending that, well, you don't need to vote on that, but next year I don't plan on giving them any of our COIT, fire COIT.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's have a motion for approval before discussion.
So moved.
And seconded. Any discussion, Matt?
Not over the contract, but can we, and this might be a question for Brian, can we go ahead and make that decision so that it's crystal clear going forward that we're not coming off that money next year? I mean, so that they don't even waste time asking us.
Well, I doubt that you'll find just a decision forcing them not to ask you next year, would be my guess, just based on past. You can make that decision tonight. It doesn't mean it can be changed in the future as well, so you can't really bind yourself to something like that. But it is a topic of negotiation and discussion every year. We have tried to settle it through an amendment to the interlocal agreement, which you all have passed and the city has not, making clear what happens every year. And right now it's just subject to discussion, and I think probably just use the opinions that have been expressed this evening. Probably somebody will pick up on that and make a phone call and see where people stand. You can vote on it if that's what you're asking, Matt. And you want to, you
what
can.
happens
Doesn't
if-
bind you really.
And I'm not saying for this year, but what happens if this is, it's my understanding that this is ours, that the city has not contributed to this at all yet, that we're just kind of saying, okay, this is what it is, sign it. Is that an accurate statement?
You mean the amount?
The current, yeah.
Okay, every year, our accountant goes through
Right.
and breaks that out of what portion is from COA that is for the fire, property tax, or the amount we get for the fire for Southwest Clay, okay? And you're looking at probably $500,000 is for Southwest Clay. So that's why, of course, they're going to want it. But by rights, we do not have to give that to them. But anyway, what I was going to say is our accountant breaks us out on what each fund gets of that COIT. And what you're seeing is part of that is what is from the fire for Southwest Clay.
Well, I know what you're asking. The point being, this has already been negotiated with the city.
This year
They're
has.
going to accept this, but next year, if we don't want to give them any COIT money from Southwest Clay,
We don't have to sign it, right?
that's exactly right.
And what's the right, what if we just? they
You don't
keep-
have to sign it? Well, no, you can make the changes and send it back to them.
And they don't have to sign it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Because
and then we
then-
get into a contracted negotiation over whether or not.
Then it refers back to the last year, the contract will.
So
So
we-
basically, we need to work this out with them some way, shape, or form.
Or we're obligated to give them
I mean, because
Southwest Clay money unless we
We're
come
not
to
obligated.
agreement.
We're
But
not
if they
obligated.
If it resorts back, we are.
We're obligated to provide fire protection for the unincorporated part.
We know that. But to Matt's point.
If we don't come to agreement and the city won't sign something that says we're giving them $0, it reverts back to this one, then they win. I mean, then they.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Then he's, well, I don't like that.
I wouldn't sign it if I were the city.
Yeah, what's the incentive? I mean, I guess we dangle this fire department in front of them and say, we're using this money.
And that's the point, we just had a meeting, and that's the point, that this money is going to be used for something that we're doing to help the city department out, the fire department out.
Yeah. The money
That money is going toward these fire stations and stuff.
Right.
I just think I think discussion on next year needs to start.
So that they're very clear that the money that normally we might give them from Southwest Clay, we're now going to give toward paying down the debt obligation on the project.
I don't want to get to the point where all of a sudden we budget to use this money and then we're $500,000 short the first year someone needs it.
Are we overreacting?
The money is budgeted for next year, okay? There's a $300,000 extra that I have stuck in the fire, okay? That it's in there for a purpose. If it comes down that we have to give this COIT to work things out, then you guys will have to make that decision. But my thought is to use this to help with the construction.
And
Couldn't agree more,
Yeah.
but we don't, I mean.
we don't want to lose that because they don't sign something and it defaults back to where we're obligated to pay.
And we have to spend it for fire.
Great,
You know,
we
so-
intend to, but we don't want to give it to the city so that they can go and buy more statues for Main Street.
With a fire hose to hang on them.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. So the point is that I think, and Matt's absolutely right, I think we need to begin this discussion so that there are no surprises and they know exactly why and what we want to do with this extra COIT money from Southwest Clay. We want to earmark it toward the project and not give it to them for them to do with what they will. So,
So may I ask a question? I really wasn't involved in these discussions, so I'm hearing them at the same time you are. So does the agreement allocate COIT, the funds that are always discussed to the city?
What?
Would you
Beyond the actual fire?
Yes, and it had to do because we were making up because they did the tax increase in steps. So Southwest Clay was paying 25% one year, then 50% the next, and we were making up that gap in tax collections. Well, now they're at 100%. There's no gap for us to be making up.
Okay, correct. And it was 2012, 13, 14, 15. It was a 25% step. Okay, next year they're getting 100%. But their stand on this is that is fire coat from Southwest Clay that they should be receiving. It's just kind of like the property tax is 2 years behind. Well, that's the same way they feel about the fire. I mean, we've been very generous, but here we are, what we're trying to do with this fire project. Then why don't we take that $300,000 that we normally give them and put it into this project?
So I guess I'm asking the question to ask why the conclusion that if you don't agree next year, it defaults to the amount this year.
In the contract.
Is that what it says in the
It says
contract?
that you fall back to the previous year. Because normally, the budget's gonna go up. So, I mean, we're talking about if it's 1.2 million this year, it's gonna be a lot less next year, unless the fire budget goes extremely high.
But you understand our concern.
Yeah, I
We
totally-
want to earmark that money toward the project.
Because if I was the city, I'd be like, I'm not signing anything if we automatically get our money equal as last year.
And I guess, Brian, that we just want to make it clear that we're hoping that we can work this out between now and this time next year when we,
Well, we need to start working on this next year, in
Well-
January,
I
February.
couldn't agree more.
You know, because this is ridiculous. I've already sent them the contract to look over. I haven't got any response back for the past 2 months. So the reason I brought this to before you guys is so let's get it signed, send it up to them, and it's on them to get either sign it or whatever they're going to do. Now, they're not gonna turn this down. I mean, they're getting 1.2 million.
Well, yeah, why would you
I
turn
mean,
this
so
down?
they're not gonna turn it down, but again, you know, who knows, Mike? They've always got along. We've always got along and worked it out. It hasn't been a problem, but now we're doing something that we don't normally do.
Yes, it's
and that
taking
is
some
we're using
cookies away.
$300,000 COIT toward a fire project, you know, and if they want something from me saying, yeah, you do agree to that, I have no problem of putting toward this fire project, because that's what it's planned on, I'm gonna use it for.
I think the discussion needs to start immediately so
So-
that there
so
are no
that's-
surprises for next year.
What's the soonest we can send over the 2015 contract? Can we send it over in March?
January? Well, I don't know. It depends on when we get our numbers, isn't it?
I'm just saying, I'd like to get to them as soon as possible, because they sat on this one for 2 months. Let's get it to them in February, let them sit on it for 2 months, and that way we can, our back's not against the wall.
As soon as we get to 1782, we get our budget approved, which usually no
It's
happens no
February.
later than February. Then we have the certified COIT, we can do the calculation and actually determine how much of the COIT is reflected and allocated to each different fund.
Then can we plan on bringing this back up in March then? Is that a possibility?
Sure, oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, we're going to approve it here in a moment, but the point being is we want to head this off at the pass as early as possible.
And next year, be prepared to have probably monthly meetings because of this project, okay?
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I
so
think-
that's no problem, March, right in March. Because it's just a matter of changing the AV, is what it amounts to,
Okay.
okay?
You'll call for the vote on this.
Any other discussion, Matt? Hearing none. All those in favor of the action item adopting the 2014 fire contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries 2-0.
This is yours.
Thank you. Okay. Next action item, resolution number 2014-10-28-01, approving a lease with the Carmel Clay Municipal Building Corporation. Doug? Or Brian?
Yes, thank you. You have before you the resolution. You conducted the public hearing. The township received, and we have delivered a certificate of the county auditor. I got a copy for you. The township received, I didn't copy all the petitions for you, just the county auditor's certificate.
Thank you.
Received a
Yeah, my name's
counterparts of petitions with 90 signatures on it. The statute requires 50, requesting the approval of the lease, which you advertised 10 days ago as having been entered into or anticipating entered into. The Carmel Clay Municipal Building Corporation met this morning and approved the form of lease that was distributed to you all and approved their resolution adopting it and preliminarily approving the bonds anticipated to structure the, or to fund the construction of the structures that we've been discussing. And so you met the statutory requirements to enter into the lease. And I'll just take a quick walk through the resolution. You've had it for a little while. The resolution acknowledges, it describes the three projects that we've talked about, Station 43, Station 44, and the repair center. It approves the lease with the building corporation, the form of the lease with the building corporation. It approves the notice that was published in the paper previously, which contained all the statutory requirements. It acknowledges that the building corporation is going to intends to issue bonds in an amount not to exceed $7.120 million. It will definitely not exceed that. It'll probably be closer to $6.5 million, but we can never go up. We can always come down from the approval resolution. So that was a calculation by Crow Horvath as kind of a maximum that we've used for the notice purposes. And it also designates, it approves the bonds because a governmental body, an elected official body, has to give an approval of the bonds issued by an affiliated entity. And it also designates the president of the board and the trustee as the executing authorities for a whole variety of things, including a continuing disclosure document that the township will have to file, designates the bonds as bank qualified, and takes a variety of other issues. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions about that. And then finally, directs the trustee and the president to take all action to enter into the transactions in the lease and also described in the resolution. So with that, I'll be very happy to answer any specific questions that you have. I will give you one change in what we talked about last time. We handed out a preliminary timeline for you that had the bonds closing mid-December. Told you then that that was tentative, and we just had a meeting with the architect and the construction manager and Crow Horvath's representatives, Angie, and we determined that it's most prudent to postpone that closing till probably the 1st of February. So the project is going to go forward just as anticipated and scheduled, hopefully with substantial completion by July 1, 2016. But Angie really recommended, and I think she's right, that for rating purposes for these bonds, we have to have more information on the cost of construction, and those won't be available, those estimates, until about mid-December. So we thought it was prudent to wait on the closing, and the township, there's a reimbursement resolution that any funds that the township forwards for the project can be reimbursed out of the bond issue.
Let's have a motion for approval, then discussion.
So move.
And seconded. Now discussion, Matt.
I just have section 8.
Yes.
Can you just go, what that $10 million mean, what that means?
Okay. Yeah, all right. So if there are regulations that say if you are a small issuer, okay, which is defined as $10 million in debt instruments during the course of a year, you can designate a bond issue as bank qualified. That allows a purchaser, if it's a bank, to get some special tax treatment that just makes the bonds more attractive for a bank underwriter or a bank to purchase them. And it's only available if you are going to issue $10 million or less in debt in a given year. So because the rating or the bond holders will really look to the township as the funding source, because you are through your lease payments, both you and the building corporation are designating the bonds as bank qualified to fill in that small issuer requirement.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
No.
Excellent, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The lease with Carmel Clay Municipal Building Corporation is approved 2-0. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Moving on, information items, discussion of the fire construction update, project update. Doug?
What I've asked the architect and the CM to attend our meeting tonight, so you guys can get familiar with them. And the architect is Kevin Cooper from Axis, and our construction manager, John Barbie with Envoy. And if you gentlemen would like to say anything to the board, if you're interested in, because John, I'm sure they're going to have plenty of questions for you as we get
Yeah.
moving on this.
My name's John Barbie. I'm president of and owner of Envoy. We're a project construction management company, been in business for 25 plus years, working in the public sector. Hamilton County has been a big sector that we've worked in for many years, and at the actual county seat, we've built many of their capital projects over the last 20 years. We're very versed in public construction and happy to be here and be part of the team. As Doug said, we've had a meeting amongst the professionals ahead of tonight's meeting, and we've been meeting already on the fire chief and his staff and doing coordination. We're looking to give you a formal update here on January 6th, right after the first of the year. So,
Good.
look forward to the project.
Thank you. Introduce yourself, or reintroduce yourself.
My name's Kevin Cooper with Axis Architects. I introduced our firm, I think, at the last meeting, but John is exactly right. We are moving forward with the design process. We kind of kicked things off October 15th. We've had 2 meetings with the fire department so far, and I think we're pretty much wrapped up with programming of the 2 stations, 43 and 44, and so we're starting to do sketches on plans and layouts of each site. So, but
Great.
John is right. January 6th is, I think, we'll be in a position to present not only designs but also a budget for the 2 stations. Thank you.
Well, thank you both, gentlemen, and congratulations, and we look forward to working with you. Any comments?
No.
Thank you, welcome. Okay. Did you have any comments on, any other comments on the fire construction project?
No, just what Brian has talked about, and John and Kevin. Angie, is there anything that you would like to state, discuss, since you're the money person?
Are there contracts executed?
No, not yet. Really close on the architect's agreement, and we're just beginning our discussions with Envoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie Stino with Crow. Really briefly, just so you all are aware of what the public is seeing, the max parameters that Brian had mentioned, that looked at the cost estimates at this time for all 3 projects. We know that's not going to happen as they're currently defined. To allow the township and you all more time to really define what that project is, we went ahead and said we're going to authorize the maximum amount and work down. So really want to make sure you're aware of that. The project is much larger, really outside of the scope and the goals. The goal will be, of course, to narrow this down so we keep the tax rate the same. So that's the ultimate goal, but wanted to make sure you're aware of that as well. When you see that value being a little bit larger, it is going to be toned down as the gentlemen go through their process. So that is it.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie.
Should I add about this? I hate for that to be on the record.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, if I can clarify one item that Doug said, I did take a look at the contract, and I think Doug the trustee is absolutely correct that if there is not a 2015 fire contract executed, you divert back to the assessed value computation of the prior year. I do not believe that applies to the county option income tax distribution. Okay.
Before we send this over to the city with our signatures, can you verify? And is it a
Well, I'm just reading the document. So the very last provision, and I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for this previously, so I'm looking at it right now. So at the bottom of page 4, top of page 5, at the very end of page 4, it says, in the event that the city has provided fire protection in 2014 and a mutually acceptable contract is not reached between the city and the township for, that should really say 2015, the township shall reimburse Oh, no, I see. That is for 2014. The township shall reimburse the city based upon the same formula utilized in this agreement, based upon 2012 pay 2013 assessed valuation. Okay? Now, so that means that 3.06% of valuation, of assessed value outside of the city limits gets applied again next year, okay? Now, if you look at the county option income tax provision, that's at the top of page 4. It talks, at the bottom of page 3, it talks about applying the 3.06%, blah, 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 blah. Then at the top of page 4, it says, in addition to the foregoing payments on or before December 31, 2014, the township shall distribute to the city from county option income taxes a one-time payment in the amount of $513,482. Okay? That provision at the end, in my opinion, does not apply to this one-time county option income tax distribution. I wrote that language a year ago, and Doug just updated the contract with current numbers, and I had no intention of including that provision to this, and the way I read it, it does not.
So next year's contract would just eliminate that language.
Yeah, or if you had some smaller amount that you wanted to do, that would be fine as well, or you could just take that out. So you're not bound by that next year.
All right.
And it's just a
Okay.
topic of negotiation every year, and if you say it's not coming, it's not. Just to give one other bit of background, the reason that this discussion occurs is because on 2 occasions, the city, now 3, the city has given the township the ability to have a uniform debt tax rate in the city and the township. Okay? One for the Monon Center, the park, and the other for the 2 previous fire stations. So from the city's perspective, the COIT's based on that debt, somehow, the debt compared to the debt of every other entity in the county.
Allocated based on a percent of levy.
Yeah.
So they felt when that, the Southwest Clay, of course, you guys know the whole
Yep.
lay of it, what it is.
Yeah, so from their position, they think that's, in quotes, their county option income tax. Legally, it's not, it's yours. And it's just a matter of discussion for you all with them as to what happens with it.
So it's, in your opinion, we're covered next year if we don't want to give it to them? They don't
Yes.
automatically get it by playing hardball?
The contract does not require that to be, that portion, that county option income tax to be reinstated. It does require the other percentages that you're paying for fire service to be reinstated at last year's 3.06% of this year's 3.06% of assessed value, but not the COIT.
So with that new knowledge, it really does, if we drag our feet and don't sign, we're fine reverting back to the 3.
I don't know what's happening to the assessed value there.
Yeah,
It tends to
As long
shrink.
as the fire budget goes down.
And as long as the fire department continues to respond. I mean, that's what you're purchasing with that.
I'm sure we can get this worked out.
Okay, so it's not as big of a deal as we thought.
Right.
Good,
Okay.
perfect. Anything else, gentlemen, on this?
No.
Okay. Then we'll move on to financial questions from the board. Matt?
None.
I have none either. Board comments, Matt?
None.
No comments either. Announcements, Doug?
Yeah, I just have one. You guys in your package should have received the letter from State Board of Accounts on our audit.
Yep.
Okay, you've got that. Brian, did they send you one, or Paul, did they send you one in the mail too?
No, they did not.
Okay, I got one in the mail too, so, and the
I got an
only-
email,
You got an email?
but there was nothing attached to it, just the letter. There
Okay.
was no report.
Well, the report.
I guess they encouraged me to go to some website, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, good point. And that's the thing I was making, is that's only a letter about them doing the audits. They do them every 3 years now, and we had ours this past summer. But you can go to their website and pull up our audit. So that's information for everyone in the community if you want to find out what our audit was. The only thing we had, the only comment they had was in my guy that mows the cemetery. this first year was fine, the second year, I didn't have, we have now corrected this, but the second year, they mowed the cemeteries. I did not have a paragraph in there that says that we would continue to pay them the same amount with what, each concurring year or whatever. So I got a hold of Brian's office, we changed that. That's been corrected. So, and now we have it so we can have the same contract for a couple of years instead of getting a contract every year. And that's all it is. It carries over to the second year.
I guess they had to find
And
something.
I didn't do that. I thought it was in there. Yes, if they want to find something, that's a good
Well,
thing.
that's okay.
But that's it. Nothing else going on.
Okay. Brian? Angie? Anything at all? Debbie? Tyler? You have anything?
Signatures.
Okay. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
What time do we call that?
I'm sorry?
What time?
Oh, 6:37.